It's early June now, and the herbs in the garden by my kitchen door are really in their fullest flush of growth. So despite the fact that we've just had the driest May in 124 years, they are really lush and beautiful. Great for using in the kitchen at the moment. But what I want to do today is show you how to dry them so that you've got herbs there through into the autumn and the winter with all that beautiful flavour of summer that brings. So I've been out, I'm picking as much as I can. You want to pick on a nice dry hot day so that the herbs are in their best condition, usually sort of middle of the day after any overnight dew has evaporated, and pick them with nice long stalks so that you can hang them up and dry them in your house. You don't need any special equipment for this at all other than maybe a hook or even a coat hanger and a piece of string. It's a lovely sunny afternoon, so I'm going to cut some of this mint ready for drying. If you look at it, you can see there are long, tall stems, and at the top of each one is the nice new soft growth that's coming up. Lots of tiny little pairs of leaves inside other leaves. So what I'm going to do is pick out some of these tops, and that will encourage the mint to bush out from further down, and I'll have even more. Here's my mint harvest for today. If I spread it out, be able to see that some of these pieces have got nice long stems, whilst other ones are just little short bits. These little short bits I've just taken out from the top. These are the growing tips, and I'm going to use those fresh in something like a tabbouleh or mint sauce. The stems that have been able to get longer before I've pinched them out, like this one, I'm going to tie up by these stems here in bunches and hang them up to dry. I've tied these pieces up into 5 little bunches now. It's quite important you don't put too much together because the air needs to be able to circulate around the leaves to allow them dry, so you don't get any damp patches that might go a bit mouldy. So I've just tied each little bunch like a posy with some soft cotton string tight so that it doesn't come undone as it dries, because the stems will get smaller. And then the tail ends I've left quite long and done in a loop. And what I'm going to do now is just hang them up on my herb rack from the little S hooks. And there's the mint hanging from my herb rack in the dining room to dry. I've just got a hook in the ceiling. If you don't have a herb rack, you can hang them from anything. You could hang them from the curtain rail if you liked. So these S hooks make it much easier to do that. And I will leave them there for a couple of weeks until they're really crispy dry. Just to show you some of what I've got here, I have some sage, this lovely French tarragon, which has an incredibly intense flavour, almost a sort of a chili-like heat behind the aniseed of it. That's actually one that was brought to the UK by the Romans, and it's not the same as Russian tarragon. So if you can get hold of French tarragon plants as plugs, they are so much better. You can't grow it from seed because it's actually a mutation from the original tarragon, and so that's quite a thought, that every tarragon plant there is now, every French tarragon plant, is a descendant through cuttings of those original mutations, way back to the Roman times. Yeah, a little bit of digression there. I've also got quite a lot of golden marjoram, absolutely wonderful stuff for pizzas. I used to use it on focaccias as well. And then last but not least, I have one little bunch of basil, and this is from the basil plants that I potted on from the supermarket. Two weeks later, and the herbs are ready to store, and you can tell that they are ready to come down off the rack because they will be really crispy, shriveled like this. This is a mint, and you can hear the sound as the leaves rustle against each other. I'm going to start with the tarragon, which is the simplest one really. And I'm going to hold the string out of the way, hold it together as a bunch, grab a bowl, and I'm just going to snip the leaves into tiny little lengths, making your way along like that. And you get the scent from all those lovely oils as the leaves are cut and bruised. Tarragon goes really well with fish, chicken, classically. Really nice with cheese. I actually prefer it fresh, but when you can't have it through the winter, it's good to have the dry variety. And it's interesting, there's a lot of herbs, they do taste subtly different when they are dried. Use them for different things. That's it. All I'm left with is the ends there, and because it's cotton string, I can just put that in the compost. I'm going to do exactly the same with the marjoram and with the mint, although I might need to chop it a little bit finer there because it's nice big leaves. Mint makes really nice tea, and an even better mix I find if you mix it with dried lemon balm as well. It's really delicious. The sage is a bit different because the leaves are really tough, and you don't want great big pieces in your cooking usually. So what I do is I rub it. I'll just snip off the stalks and put the sage into a metal sieve and then grind it round and push it through, and that gives you quite a fine powder. You can chop it up small if you like. It sort of produces a sort of a clumpy, powdery green like that. If you find that rubbing through is just too much hard work, you can use instead a little blender like this one, which attaches to my blitzer machine. Do a very, very quick pulse though, so you don't end up with just completely dust. If you prefer your sage a little bit bigger, you can just cut it up into small pieces and then rub it through your fingers like this, a bit like when you're making pastry, and it will gradually break up into smaller and smaller parts. Another herb that I like to dry is bay. I have a bay tree outside the back door, and it has lovely big long leaves like this, which are really good for putting in soups and stews. I can also use them in milk to make custard, so it's kind of a sweet flavour, goes along with things like mace and nutmeg. So for flavouring custards, it's absolutely delicious. You don't need to break that up at all. So I've dried this in exactly the same way by hanging up branches of bay and then just taking off the individual leaves. And I kept them in, put them in a plastic packet here because we were using them to raise funds for the community allotment. And I've saved various small jars over the years from herbs and spices that I've finished and used. This is the best one I've got. This is the Sainsbury's because it's got a nice tight screw-on lid. That's an old Tesco's one, I think. The plastic lids are a bit more unreliable. If you haven't got anything like that, you can get little jars like this. And if I've got large quantities of herbs, in backup, I'll put them in just a plastic bag like that, fold over the top and put a label on just so that they're airtight, and I keep them in the cupboard as a refill pack. And herbs I would store out of sunlight so that they don't lose their colour. After 2 weeks they should still be green. If you leave them too much longer than that, they'll go brown and not very nice looking and lose their oils. So there you are, that's how simple it is to dry your own herbs.